I need a partner, Dexter. Someone I can trust. Unless you can be completely honest with me. I don't want to do this anymore.
I am pleasantly surprised to say that Dexter Resurrection is off to a rockin' start. It is, in my humble opinion, off to the best start of any Dexter season dating all the way back to season 4. Most fans of Dexter are in complete agreement. The show peaked over the first 4 seasons, and then it went downhill. Not that the subsequent seasons weren't still largely fun and enjoyable, but something was clearly missing, and the overall enterprise became a lot more uneven. Jordan Chase and the Barrel Girl gang from Season 5 provided a decent enough storyline, and Peter Weller was fantastic in the role of Stan Liddy. While it was a huge drop-off from Season 4, it still had its own charm. Season 6, unfortunately, was a huge mess. The Doomsday Killer was probably the weakest big bad in the entire Dexter franchise, representing an even steeper decline in the quality of the show. The cheap trick with Edward James almost made no sense in the context of the Dexter universe. In almost any show, a character talking to a person that doesn't exist is an overdone trope that no longer works. But in this case, Dexter was the narrator, and he would not have had access to the inner thoughts of his target, making it even cheaper. Otherwise, the kills were often silly and over the top, so complicated and ridiculous that it's impossible to imagine any single person could set them up without being seen. They should have shut that story down quickly, because the best part of Season 6 was the Brother Sam storyline, and unfortunately, that was the one they shut down too quickly. Season 7 might have been a big improvement over 6, but still fell well short of the gold standard from the first 4 seasons. Isaac Serka was an interesting enough antagonist, introduced in an effective manner as part of one of Dexter's early kills in the season, and the two had an unusual relationship. But the best part of the season involved LaGuerta's suspicions that Dexter was the Bay Harbor Butcher, where she went on the warpath to redeem Dokes and to bring Dexter to justice. Some really awesome scenes between LaGuerta and Matthews transpired there. They did, however, have one big missed opportunity with Lewis, whose story began in Season 6. He provided a unique and interesting different type of rival for Dexter. Lewis was someone who had it in for Dexter, but he clearly did not fit the sacred code. Just when that storyline was beginning to really gain steam, and Dexter might have to make a choice to kill someone who wasn't guilty of murder, they bottled it. They inexplicably killed him off just when things were getting super interesting there, and that is one of the bigger missed opportunities in the Dexter franchise, closely followed by the premature departure of Brother Sam the prior season. Season 8 was a complete and total disaster. Vogel's character had some potential, but it was never really fulfilled in a satisfactory manner. The brain surgeon was another weak big bad, something of a completely recycled ice truck killer complete with mommy issues, although at least slightly better than Doomsday. Not saying much. The entire season was kinda all over the place, and the writing was lacking. The Dexter and Hannah relationship had already become dry and ran its course. Deb's meltdown was a simple repeat from the prior season, and there was never the type of engaging intensity that drove the show, even when it was past prime. It all kind of meandered along, going through the motions with no heart or soul, and a lot of plot devices like the hurricane that just happened to hit and cause a blackout when Deb was in the hospital, and then somehow Dex drives a small boat straight into it and survives, purely because they wanted to keep him alive for some future installment. Poor Harrison gets stuck in Argentina with a whack job who should never have been allowed to escape Dexter's table. Then the whole lumberjack ending, it was awful. Absolutely awful.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
That was it. A once great franchise went out on a whimper. But why? I mentioned some of the bad plotting or ridiculous killers, but the key missing ingredient was Rita herself. Not only did she make him more human, she was the ultimate plot device to fuck with his happiness. Everyone that's been in a serious relationship has been running late, doing something stupid, forgetting an important date, some big event or whatever. The initial seasons of Dexter capitalized on that everyman aspect. Only Dexter wasn't out getting drunk with the guys. He was stalking and or killing someone. It was perfect, and while killing her was a bold choice, it took the air out of the balloon for years to come. Then years later, out of nowhere, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Dexter New Blood came along in an attempt to redeem the franchise. I think it largely succeeded on that front following the disaster that was season 8. It was better than 6, probably on par with 5 and 7, but it was still a far cry from the show's peak form from the first 4. Kurt Caldwell was a pretty good big bad on the whole, although the story behind him was quite ridiculous. What are the odds that Dexter's first victim in a decade happens to be the son of a fellow serial killer? In the end, Dexter was finally killed, and yet again, the story was over. Dexter died, and Chief Angela Bishop was the hero who exposed him. Now here we are in 2025, and once again, Dexter rose from the ashes, both in the past and the present. It appeared the powers that be were going to drain this franchise of every last drop of blood like Brian Moser himself. But the 2 new shows have actually been really solid. Dexter Original Sin was a surprisingly great prequel. Christian Slater was simply wonderful in the role of Nutjob Harry, and Patrick Gibson was terrific in the lead role, where his mannerisms were eerily similar to Michael C. Hall. It certainly helped that the prequel had Hall's voiceover narration, and it sure was fun watching Joey Pants run for his life with no pants on. Dexter Original Sin represented a worthy chapter in the Dexter franchise, and for what it was very well done. It wasn't exactly groundbreaking stuff, but it provided for a fun and enjoyable viewing experience, one that stayed true to the spirit of the original, while also overcoming a lot of inherent prequel territory obstacles working against it. And with Dexter Resurrection, to reiterate, I believe it's off to the best start of any Dexter season in a very long time, since the show began its steep decline following season 4. As I mentioned, killing off Rita was the biggest writing blunder in the entire franchise. It provided great shock value for sure, Trinity getting one last dig at Dexter, unbeknownst to him after he had already murdered Trinity. It was certainly powerful, but it also ruined the show. It is no coincidence that the quality of Dexter was never the same after the writing blunder that resulted in her departure. Even Clyde Phillips himself made mention of this in a subsequent interview, something to the effect that by killing off Rita, they wrote themselves into a corner. Of course, Rita was never the main focus of the show, and her character isn't the only thing that made the first 4 seasons great. For starters, there were some magnificent antagonists during those first 4 seasons. The ice truck story from season 1 was excellent. Dokes was a brilliant rival for Dexter throughout the first 2 seasons, and he still remains my favorite character in the entire franchise. Lundy was another great character gunning for Dexter, and Lila was icing on the cake. Season 2 was truly firing on all cylinders, and in my humble opinion, it was the single greatest viewing experience in the entire history of Dexter. Jimmy Smits was exceptional in the role of Miguel Prado, and he was a nice change of pace, a completely different angle than anything we had seen previously. Season 4 was a return to basics, but it was extremely well done, and John Lithgow was captivating in the role of Arthur Mitchell, where his showdown with Dexter was the ultimate serial killer versus serial killer battle. Beyond having awesome villains, the show had an incredible cast with interesting and mostly likable characters. And this helped the show continue to thrive and remain enjoyable even after it passed its prime form. Deborah Morgan was a great character, as were all of the flashback sequences involving Nutjob Harry, where incidentally, having James Remar back definitely makes Dexter Resurrection feel more like Dexter. Batista was and remains a tremendous character, and I'm 100% Team Batista now. But then you had others, the aforementioned James Dokes, Maria LaGuerta, Captain Matthews, that pervert Masuka, and later on we had Joey Quinn replacing Dokes. It was a solid cast all around, And Michael C. Hall was, of course, magnificent in the lead role, and he continues to be excellent in the role to this day. But in a powerful yet subtle way, Rita was the character that best helped carry the show during its peak stretch. She was Dexter's camouflage, his disguise to hide his dark passenger in plain sight. Harry always stressed the importance of fitting in, and Rita filled that role to perfection. And with that came the territory of unexpected obstacles that created great difficulty for Dexter, time and time again. Her children, Aster and Cody, were a direct extension of that, where they too provided Dexter with unforeseen challenges that needed to be dealt with and overcome, both to maintain his disguise to blend in so he could keep Rita happy, also that he could follow his true passion, chopping people up into little pieces and dumping them overboard in garbage bags. Killing off Rita destroyed that important, omnipresent chemistry that allowed the show to truly thrive. Aster and Cody were only seen sporadically after, and Dexter's subsequent love interests, first Lumen and then Hannah, they knew and accepted that Dexter was a complete and total monster. Angela wound up being the one most closely aligned with Rita's archetype, but the circumstances were completely different, with Dexter in self-imposed hibernation, and Bishop being a stronger and more independent character than Rita. Killing off Rita robbed us of a lot of potentially interesting scenarios with Aster and Cody growing older, where Dexter's responsibilities would have been greatly amplified, and his fatherly and husbandly duties moved beyond the challenges of dealing with Rita and her young children. A lot of fans didn't like Rita, claiming she was annoying, and she was such a drag, always getting in Dexter's way. Well, that was the entire point. And it inherently made the stakes greater, and that came with greater all-around intensity that was often lacking in Dexter following the 4th season. Rita was the glue that held the franchise together throughout those first 4 seasons, and the decision to kill her off was unequivocally the biggest writing blunder in the entire Dexter franchise. There were other big blunders to be sure, namely the Brother Sam story taking a backseat to the silly Doomsday story. And then Lewis, so much could have been done with that story, which is a shame because it was building in the right direction until they abruptly ruined it. But killing off Rita was a far bigger blunder, such a bad move, and one that the Dexter series honestly never truly recovered from. The biggest shame in losing Rita is that we, as an audience, were cheated out of the most powerful moment the show could ever provide. The moment when Rita discovers she allowed a monster into her house, into her bed, and into the lives of her 2 precious children. The show was always hinting at this with foreshadowing. The idea that everything in Dexter was building toward that moment when Rita discovered who Dexter really was. That's the moment the audience needed and deserved, and it never happened. The closest we came to that was Deb discovering her brother was a monster, but it simply lacked the same punch. Deb was always unconditionally loyal to her brother. In that sense, they would have been better off killing Deb instead of Rita if they were looking for shock value, because the fact Rita never wound up having that moment of horrific discovery, something the show had always been building toward, they bottled it. Plain and simple. They bottled it. It is no coincidence that the quality of the show suffered after the writing blunder that killed off Rita. Indeed, Rita was the glue that held the entire Dexter franchise together. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night.
I'm kind of in the middle of something.
Oh, Harrison has an ear infection. He's in a lot of pain, Dexter. Whatever you're doing can wait.
Right, my mistake, I wasn't thinking. I'm on my way.